Hello everybody, welcome to Mixed Media, Animating Photos and Illustrations, Week 2. So last week we had a great session and we went over how to get some files into Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve, how to use some keyframes and effects to start getting some movement. So we did like some zooms and pans and things like that. And the keyframes are really important because that's, to be key, it's, the keyframe allows us to decide or tell the software what to do at certain points of elements. So this allows us to then do these kinds of basic animations and bring illustrations and photographs to life and play around with what's possible. So it's a lot of fun as a tool. And so we're going to continue that exploration today. So today we're going to look at an introduction to the layers. So furthering that idea of layers and what that means, animation and effects. And just to get into some more details and depth of what's possible in the program. Again, this is just kind of the beginning, an intro two-part session. There's way more to come, and we'll be looking at this in future sessions. We have a Fusion Studio session coming up in the coming weeks, so please join us for that as well. So if you haven't signed up for that, please go to our website, tbmcs.ca, and you can sign up for those upcoming masterclass sessions as well. So right now we have June and July sessions up. We'll be posting August soon, and you can sign up for all the summer activities in terms of the workshops and learning. So today, Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve, that's the software. And I just want to start by thanking all of our project partners. So we have the Canada Council for the Arts for funding this project, and we have our library partners. We have the Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, and the Wasaga Beach Public Library. And I did want to mention, and we touched on this in a few workshops, and just that the iMac computer stations, the digital arts computers, are being delivered to each library partner. So every library will have two of these iMacs within the next few weeks. So once the libraries have access available again for the public, feel free to check it out. So anything we're doing, if you don't have a computer or you don't want to put the software, if you have an older computer, we have you covered. We have the iMacs coming to the libraries. So currently the Blue Mountains Public Library has 2. Wasaga Beach Public Library has 1, and then everyone will have 2 in the coming weeks. So check that out. We'll have more information on that coming up, and it will be available to book and to explore these concepts. So, and they have solid state drives and fast drives that you can work with quickly, because it can take a little bit of processing power, RAM, and also the hard drive is a factor as well. So what are we going to be looking at today? So today we're going to look at basic animation with keyframes and images. And that means, how do we take an image, bring it in, and then make it move? And, again, this is a basic idea, but you can then take that and, utilize it to apply it to other concepts. So the possibilities are truly endless, but this is to give you the basic overview so you can get into keyframes and images. And then we're going to look at layers and effects, what that means, layers in terms of working with layers. Some of you might be familiar with like Photoshop layers or Affinity Photo, working in different layers. And we can do the same thing here in video layers. So each track in editing, we can have video 1, but we can have video 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And all those layers can have different movements, different elements. So that's how we can start to work with, bringing basically a still image to life by putting layers or creating layers out of the image. That's the other thing that's really fun. Then we're going to look at importing Photoshop PSD with its existing layers into Fusion, so the Fusion tab using Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve. And then we'll have a bit of time for some Q&A as well. So yeah, let's get started and look at what we can do. So the first thing I'll do is let me just escape out of here, and we'll get right into the software here. So we're going to just drop right into here. So we're in Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve. So what did we do last time? So we did a bit of the photo animation here. We took, I think my hard drive just has to refresh here. Here we go. So we took some stuff like this Niagara Falls, and we did some blurs, and then we played with what happens next. And again, just the hard drive is going to start up here. There we go. And then we play with some movements and things. So let's go to our first cut here. So this was kind of, basic, but doing some movements in. So we did these kind of zoom ins with keyframes. Quite nice. And again, just brings elements to life. And why not? It's a pretty cool thing to be able to do. Kind of a zoom in, end it there. And then I think we did the zoom out on the next one with a bit of rotation as well. And so again, totally still image, but it brings it to life really quickly and makes that work. Then we'd had this animation illustration, and we put a little bit of music too, and that was the idea too, is, you know, why not have a little bit of music play with it. But here we just did this kind of quick spin around, kind of showing you, it's a really fun, a little bit of a crazier way to go through the images. But you know, and that was it. So that was how do we create like a bit of a quick gallery show. We put a little bit of a paper background, and that's how simple we can do that. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to start a new sequence. I'm going to go timeline, create new, and we're going to do basic animation with images. So we're going to create a whole new sequence here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to just put a nice solid layer. So under generator, I'm going to go over here to the solid color, and I'm going to bring that in. Oops, just drag it right in here to the video. That's the best thing. You can really just literally, you know, drag and drop elements. So you have effects, drag them right into the sequence here, and then we can work with them quite easily. So that's the nice thing about it. I'm going to go up here, choose a color, double click on that, and let's find something interesting. Let's do that. Okay. Let's have a little bit of a fun color instead of just over black. So that's one thing. And now what I'm going to do is take, let's bring some things in. So I'm just going to do a new bin, and I'm going to do some like logo work. This could be something, you know, and again, this could be anything. So I'm just going to work with some logos, import media. I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to find some logos just for our programs, the different streams that we have. Okay, so let's start. We got our first one here, and we won't see it because it's a black text. So what I'm going to do is right click, add track, and you can see now what I've done is I have the layers. So I have video 1, video 2, and then I can keep doing layers, and then I can work with that as layers, so that way I'm not just stuck with, you know, one element and trying to do that. So I can have the layers, and then the good thing is I can turn them on or off, just like in Photoshop or any kind of program. I can turn them on or off. So let's just drag this in here, and there we go. Now we can see our image, our graphic. Okay, and they're just like 4 seconds, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another track. I'm able to scroll up right here, and then what I can do with the next track is let's put it. I'll do a bit of an overlap, let's say here, and that way the next one's going to come in above. Okay, and again, by working on all the layers, we can quickly bring everything into you know, some sort of an animation. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to just drag it up here. Oops, let's do that. Create a new track, add track, and then you can make these bigger or smaller just by dragging on the side here. You know, so if you don't want them to be that big, you can kind of, you know, fit more real estate here on your monitor by, and I'm going to drag the audio all the way down just so I can work more with the video. And that's purely just with these side tabs here. I can just, you know, click and drag them to make them bigger or smaller. So that's fantastic. Okay, so now let's do the design. And you can see I'm just stacking these on, so one after the other, and just a little bit of overlap because I'll play with what happens there. And here I'm just going to drag it right in. You see it can just create its own layer right away. So we got those. So we got our solid layer, and we have these 4 logos on top. Okay, so now here's our start point. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start the keyframing action. So I'm going to take this overall and say, okay, let's make it a bit smaller. Okay, and then I'm going to take the keyframe here, and I'm going to say, okay, let's move this. Let's go the other way. Let's move our X position. So I'm going to take it right off the screen. And by the end, I'm going to go right to the end here. I'm going to hit another keyframe, and I'm going to say, let's have it move across the screen all the way that way. Okay, I'm going to turn off this top track here, so I just see that bottom one. So what I've done is I've keyframed at the beginning to be off screen left. So I did the keyframe here, and I said X position all the way off. Then I went to the end here, and I said this keyframe, make it the X position all the way off on the screen right. And here we get our basic animation then when we play it. So a really quick and simple way to move things from left to right. Right? And then what we can do is I can actually right click here and I can say copy. Then I can click on this one and I can say paste attributes. And I'm going to say video attributes and say apply. And now what it's going to do is going to copy that same effect. Right, so, and then I can do that again for this one. I'm just going to right click, paste attributes. And just zoom in here a little bit. So I'm just going paste attributes, and then you just want to make sure all the video attributes. You can see that it's the scale, the zoom, all of that stuff is happening. Okay, I'm just going to zoom out here, and you can see now it's going to just keep going. And that's really cool. So that's a really quick way that we can, and same here, I'm just going to paste that attribute. Go apply. So let's play that back. And that's it. That's how we can quickly animate something in that kind of a fashion to make things just go like that. Now, we can do anything we want. We can have these zooming in, we can do anything, we can replicate it and kind of go in that manner. And it could be that, that simple. And that's what we can do with any kind of image and in the layers. So this allows us to work with all these multiple layers. So we have our background, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I'm using logos, but this could be anything. Like this could be, you know, parts of your image, parts of a photograph, text, anything like that. So we can play with what happens and when it happens, right? So we have the layers, we have the keyframing that we did, and then we can copy that and paste that. And that makes it really, you know, not complicated to do, but we can quickly replicate what we did in one, replicate them over the other three. And, you know, what might look a little bit complex, we get a nice basic animation, but we're getting the things moving, the words and the logos, or images it could be. And here we go. So that's really cool. And then again, then we can open these up, and then we can see the actual keyframing if we want to. So we can, you know, look at the where are the keyframe positions and all that. So we can, you know, open these up for further review. Right. So we can see, okay, here's the different transformations. I'll do a position. And then this lets us see where positioning is going, the different keyframes that we put in. So right there. So we can see how it's gone in from one to the other. And it makes a pretty smooth transition. So that's where we can quickly identify where our keyframes are. We can move those, make it faster, make it slower. So let's look at that. So let's say I wanted to just move this a little bit. I can get it finishing a bit sooner. That's how we can change our timing. Right, so you can just go in here and then open these keyframes up. Go back over here to the position. Oops. And I'm just going to bring that a little bit closer. Same thing. And then it's finishing a lot faster. Right, so then we can just load these so that it just keeps like moving by. Right, and again, if we like that, we can copy and paste that, or we can just do these manual fixes to make it, you know, into the desirable outcome that we want. Right, so I'm just selecting the position point. I'm just going to go, okay, let's go up to there. And again, it's just finishing a lot faster. Right, so that's made it totally different in terms of our timing and how we want it. So I'm just finding what element I want. Go to the position curve right here. So right, that's specifically going to our left or right. And then we just keep going from there. So I've adjusted all the keyframes, and that's our position point. It works quite nicely. So then you can see kind of visually, we'll try to time these out so they end roughly, start and stop at the same time. So here we go in, and then I probably want the next one already starting around here. Look at that. So that we've just quickly been able to retime everything. And that's really how simple it is with the keyframes, is that you can quickly retime everything and make it work. So you can, kind of squish things, make it go faster, play with that retiming curve, and then we go from there. So that makes it really work really quickly. Okay, so now let's look at, so we work with layers, keyframes, and we did some motion work like there. So now what I want to do is let's look at creating an animation in Fusion. So we're going to create a Fusion composition and bring in a Photoshop file with the layers. Okay, so this is we're gonna call this a layer import animation, just for the sequence. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the effects, and I'm going to go over to effects. I'm going to go over here to what's called the Fusion composition. This composition lets us then use Fusion, which is kind of like a super After Effects within Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve, to do our effects work. So I'm just going to drag it right in here, and it's about 4 seconds. That's fine. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is that's in there, and now I need to create this composition. So I'm going to go down here to the Fusion tab. So you can see, I'm just going to zoom down here. So you can see we have all these tabs: media, cut, edit, fusion, color, fairlight is audio, deliver is the delivery, export. So I'm going to click on Fusion. And now we're in the Fusion tab. And all we have right now is this media out. But what we need to do is do something. We need to import this Photoshop file. So, the key is that you've created a Photoshop file or anything that has that PSD. So if you use, let's say, Affinity Photo, anything that has a PSD ending in terms of the file format, we go up to Fusion, up at the top here. And I'm going to go import, and I'm going to say import PSD. Okay, I'm going to find one that I want to work with, and I think there's let's say I think this marketing, some logos I think that we had. I have like a little bit of again, something that I've just been working on for the creator space here. So it's a PSD file. So we're going to double click that, and look what it's done. So it's imported right over here, the background, and then it has each logo. So now these are all the layers as a Fusion sequence. So this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. The great thing is that you can rewatch these, so don't worry like about, if you're wanting to take notes or rewatch, you can rewatch this and you can see what we're doing. Then what we need to do is, let's see this. So we need to connect to the media out. That's how Fusion works. And then there it is right there. So now we've loaded it, and you can see all of these are on at the same time. Okay. So what we're going to do is, first we're going to look at the background. So the way that Fusion works, again, this gets a little bit more tricky here, but these are our nodes. And if you've been joining us for some of the Blender, like the 3D animation work, these are like all the different layers. So there's nodes, and then what happens is in between these lines, this is where we can add tools to tell it to do stuff, right? So it's all blending together like so, okay? And normal, 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 and then it comes back out here together, right? And that's what ends up happening with it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first is click on the background, and we can, play with some of the settings and so on. But what I'm going to do is put a tool. So I'm going to go right here in the middle. I'm going to right click. I'm going to say add tool. And first, let's do a transformation. So I'm going to do like a general transform. Okay, and I just want to give myself a little more space. I like to just have this all plotted out nicely so we can see. And the nodes are quite visual, and just like, so you've been looking at our Blender workshops and things, these become very visual in terms of what is happening and how they're happening. So what I'm going to do here is in the transform, we have this whole timeline. It's the same idea. We can do these keyframes. So the keyframes, again, are just right up here. We're already used to the keyframes under our inspector tool in the sequence. We're doing the same stuff in this fusion thing. So you can see the user interface, it becomes the same, but now we're working in these blocks of nodes, they're called, versus just the image, the layers in the video sequence. So it's a little bit different, but each box is telling us what is happening. So it's saying, take this image, do this to it, and then spit it back out into the output, and we can go back to our edit and then see what it does. So the first thing I'm going to do is, let's do a keyframe where I'm going to kind of resize it, and maybe play a little bit with the angle as well. So I'm going to just start it like normal, and let's say I'll go to the end here, and I'm going to hit another keyframe, hit this keyframe, and we're going to say, okay, let's make it really a lot bigger, and let's rotate it around. Okay, and now when I play that back, it's gonna it takes a little bit of time, so we're just working, I think we did this as a 4K project, and you can see it's slowly spinning it around, and then eventually it needs to like compute this, and then it figures out what we did, and then it'll be able to play it back faster. Okay, so, and then let's just go over here, and I'm just gonna show you when I go back to the edit, here it is just playing back, and it just needs to render itself out. So the red, it's gonna go from red up here to blue, and you can see once it's blue, it means it's rendered in like a real-time rendering. So then it plays itself back. So you can see we're just spinning that image around. It's really subtle, but that's one effect. Okay, so now let's do another one. Okay, and let's take another one. I'm going to add a tool, and let's do a little bit of a blur. So we're going to do like a glow. Okay. And same thing. So we're going to make like the glow not exist in the beginning. So I'm going to keyframe this and say, okay, let's have like no glow in the beginning, and by the end, let's have a really intense glow. So again, I'm doing my beginning keyframe, saying, okay, in the beginning on this timeline, in this whole sequence, do that, 0 glow, and by the end, I'm going to make another keyframe and say, let's have more intense glow at that point. Okay, and then when we go back to it, we'll see how it starts from not a lot of glow to an intense glow by the end. Okay, so you can see it kind of stutters around along a little bit because we're trying to do a lot of stuff now, and that's okay. It's going to render itself out after. And now let's take this one here, so this first creator space one, and what I'm going to do is just click on these to turn them off. so I don't need to see them. So I'm just going to see the first one here. And let's create a little bit of a tool. We're going to just do little transitions. So again, we're going to go to the transform. And we're going to say, okay, in the beginning here, let's have this really small. So we don't even see it. And let's say by about here, we're going to put another keyframe. Like that. I'm going to move along. I'm going to click the keyframe again. And this is really key. You can do one keyframe and a second keyframe to say stay at that position. So I'm going to say, okay, let's for about 12 to 16 frames. I just want to stay stationary before I'm going to have it move away. So that's kind of a fun thing to figure out. You know what? I'm actually just going to redo this transform here. Just want to get this a little bit earlier, the keyframe. So no problem here. We're just going to make it totally 0. And we're going to say, okay, by about here, 38 frames, we're going to bring it in. You can see the logo like so, right? So it's going to basically go in from there, and then I'm just going to hold it for like 6 frames, click on that. And then at this point, I'm going to say, okay, let's have it move. So I'm going to go from this pivot point to like another 6 frames, another keyframe there. And I'm going to say, let's have it totally leave the whole space. So like minus, just spinning it off right there. Okay. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that's cool. And then now let's play with the second one, the next logo here. Right click, I'm going to add a tool. Let's do the same thing. We're going to do another kind of transformation. Transform. Great. Okay, and this one will start again. We'll do something similar. We'll just size it out like so we don't see it. Now I'm going to forward through, and we're going to see how this one comes in. And when this one starts moving, what I'm going to do is let's put another keyframe here. And I'm going to have this one come in. Let's say right about here. And we'll have this one zoom in. Okay, and I'll just do another keyframe here. And let's do a pivot again from here to here. And we'll say we need to go, let's say 20. And you can just type these in so they can go a bit faster. 50, so it's right off the screen. Okay, so now let's see how both of these, you see it's on the same timeline. We did 2 transforms, and let's do it. Okay, see the one's coming in. It goes to the left. This one comes and zooms in, and it's going to go up to the top. That's great. Okay, and then we got our last one. Okay, and just on the side here, you can see I can quickly kind of scroll along what's happening with it. It's going to hit stop there. And it's on an automatic loop here with this function right here. So here we're going to do another one. I'm going to add a tool. I'm going to do another transform, and same idea. So we're going to start off in the beginning with it totally out of the frame. Oops, we didn't actually get it in the right spot. I'm going to right click, add tool, transform. There we go. Now it's in line. That's what we wanted. Okay, so we're going to go right to the beginning of our sequence here, hit on size, make it disappear. And when this one's kind of full and it starts to move up, somewhere around here, we're going to say, okay, let's have this one start to zoom in. Okay, somewhere about there, let's say. I'm going to hold on that there. And now let's do a bit of a, we'll do another pivot out the other way. I think it was minus 20, I think does the trick. Oops. There we go. You can see it, and then that one's going over to that side. Okay, so we've done that. You can see it's we're just adding these tools. I'm just going to hit spacebar to stop that. And we have the background, a bit of a background rotation. We brought in these layers in Photoshop, a little bit of background rotation. We're transforming it. So, and then we can add any kind of tool there in between it. So we brought in all the layers with Photoshop, and then in Fusion we can do the same kind of work. But now we can even do more complicated work with Fusion. So it's kind of just the beginning of what's possible in what you can do with these images and how it works with adding the layers, adding the animation, and going from there. So let me just go back to here. I'm going to go back to the Edit tab here. This is just going to do kind of a real-time render here, and we're going to just see what it looks like. So it's just going to have to play through a couple times, and it's going to get into a real-time render, and we'll be able to see it. Okay, one more pass here. Cool. So you can see how they zoom in. Perfect. So that's really cool. Okay, so that's a really neat thing. And now what I'm going to do is let's just introduce another element. So that's how we can bring in the Photoshop layer. And now let's look at what we can do with, we have a bit of time here, so let's look at what we can do with image layering, I'll call it. Okay, a new one here. So I'm going to do another Fusion composition. Put it right on here. Oops. Doesn't want to go in. There we go. There we go. Just going to make this a bit shorter. We just need like a few seconds so it doesn't take too long to render. And then I'm going to go into the Fusion tab right here. Okay, so you can see I just have media out. And what I'm going to do is let's just look at our media pool. Okay, and I'm going to just take, okay, where's an image that I can take? So we'll take the Niagara Falls painting. Let's say I'm going to put it right up here. Okay, so then you can see I've basically made it work from one to the next. And what I'm going to do here is add a tool, and I'm going to do a merge under composite. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is create another one. Okay, so now what I have is I have the two images. They're merged. Okay, well, let's go over here to edit and just kind of see what it looks like. So you can see it's right kind of in the middle, smack dab in the frame. But this merge is now, I'm taking the two paintings here, and I'm able to take 1 and 2 and make them work together as a merged element. So that's pretty cool. So I can now have 1 and 2 right over here. Let me just zoom in right over here. So you can see 1 and 2 like that. And that's the same painting, but now it's 2 pieces, right? So now that's the real fun part, is taking those 2 pieces and making them work. Okay, so now, let me just zoom out of here totally. And let's just give ourselves a little bit of workspace here. I'm gonna move these along. Okay, so what I'll do is, let's first just turn that off, and oops, we seem to have lost our links now. There we go. Okay, so yes, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna play with this one first. We're gonna go to Add Tool, and we're gonna do a matte tool. We'll use something here. Let's look at something. A mask. Polygon. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put a polygon mask on here. Okay. Oops. Didn't put it in the right spot, so let's do that one more time. Add tool. We're going to go under the mask, put a polygon. There we go. Still not doing it in the right spot. Let's get this right. It's being finicky on me. Here we go. Let's do this once more. Add tool. Okay, let's make this work. There we go. Okay, so there's our polygon. Okay, so we just got to bring it up in before. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make like a bit of a polygon. Okay, and that's a little piece. Let's say of just the Niagara Falls element. I'm going to kind of make a little bit of a mask around the Niagara Falls. Okay, so I'm just going to rough this in. So the idea is now I'm separating the image. So I work with just the one, so I'm just putting the polygon right onto the first media there. And then what I'm going to do is make a bit of a soft edge. So it's, not too harsh. So a bit of a soft edge. So there's that. And then I still have my original one here. Okay, and that'll just pop itself together. Right, so what I'm able to do now is play with the compositing of the two elements. So now what I can do is I can manipulate this. So I got the little polygon here. You can see right there, that part of it. And what I'll do is now I'm going to put a tool here, Add Tool, and I'm going to transform it. And this is kind of what we can do is, create this kind of a 3D element in terms of, getting the sequence looking like, something's kind of moving within the image. So same idea, I'm just going to keyframe here, the transform, and I'll just kind of go to the end here. Okay, and Let's see what that looks like. Okay. Now let's just see what that plays out like. It's not doing exactly what I want it to do. Let's look at this again. There we go. Okay. So here we go. Here's the image moving. That's what I wanted to. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, so if we have that, let's just go do it this way. And then what I'll do is I'm going to put this Niagara Falls painting right underneath. And you can see now, so I got this, this element. And it makes it look as if it's getting bigger within the image. Right, so that's how we can we can create these cropped images within an image, and add this kind of animation within the image, which is really cool. Right, so again, so I've just done the fusion composition here. I think the one merging doesn't want to work as I want it to. Let's see here what it's doing. Let's see if we can get it to work the way I want it to work. So then we can play around with you know, other things like blurs and you know, 3D elements like lighting, ambient light. So let's look at that. So if we take the let's take this part off here. Right, so we can play with elements here. Let's just add a tool, for example, 3D, we'll do lighting, spotlight. It's not wanting to link as I want it to link. Okay, so let's get rid of that one there. So you can see though, basically, so what we can do is, so in here we can do more tools. So add tool, you know, if you want to put a, let's see, filter, film, we can put like a film grain, for example, on that effect. Right, so now it has this like film grain. So let's go back to the edit. So see now it's like, it has a bit of a film grain and we're zooming in on it. Right, so we've separated the element, so we can do this kind of quick compositing, and we can make it work, right? So composite it through and do the separation. And you can see once it plays back, it's all blue now, and we're totally getting that playback working really nicely. So again, the fusion gets a little bit tricky. There's just a few of the nodes, certain tools that need to be in a certain order. But yeah, it's really plug and play there. You need to experiment and kind of see what will work and how it will work. But that's how we can quickly get from the animation to that. So let's just look at what we were doing. So we had our first thing. We had our basic animation with images. So we did our keyframing to make the images go by, left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right. Fantastic. Then we did our layer import animation. Right, so that was all done in Photoshop. So that's a Photoshop document brought in there, and then we can animate it. So that's how quick it can be to take something. So if you built it all in Photoshop in the layers, put it right into Fusion, and then you can animate it directly with different tools. So I'm just using transform here. There can be, again, particles, lighting. The possibilities are endless. So we're just getting these intros, so then you can, just play around with it, because some of the lighting effects, film grain, particles, and other elements, and then you can add more too. So you can get third-party plugins. So really, the possibilities are quite endless. What can happen? And then we did the image layering here, where we did a composite. And we kind of zoomed in on Niagara Falls within the image. So that's how we can take a static image. We don't have to have it all moving, but we can have just a certain part of it moving. And that's a really cool effect as well. So how did we do that? We went in here, we brought in, we have a little film grain, transform, and then we're working on the two elements to merge them together. And all you can do is we can just simply bring these things in. Take any kind of painting or let's say the real image here, and that's going to replace that element. Right, so we can play it with the actual photo and then the actual element underneath it. So we can do something like that too. So let's go just to the edit here. So if we take the still image, so that could be really fun too. Is kind of compositing, manipulating that within. We're just constrained there just with the image, but we can make it a little bit, not zooming in as much, but just roughing some ideas in. So that's what we can do is with kind of compositing and image manipulation to get things moving and running around. So that's really cool. So here's just within the painting itself, and so you can imagine how quickly you could bring some of these photos to life. You can bring your Photoshop documents or any kind of layers, or you can just bring in layers. So just work in the layers, and it's simple as putting layers into your timeline, and then anything's possible with animation. So we did the zooms and the rotations before. We did these left-right kind of keyframing. So the key is just remember A frame, B keyframe, and then anything in between. Add extra keyframes you want to hold in that specific, where in that specific setting in the transform. And then all we're working on is with this inspector tool, right on the top corner here is where we can all the fusion and everything just comes right here in the inspector tool. So it's really fun. So the main thing is there's a lot of trial and error and experimentation to make it work. And once you got the hang of it, it works quite nicely in terms of making it some quick animation concepts out of images. So yeah, that's our workshop. So I'm gonna just have if there's any Q&A, you can if you want to you can ask some questions in the chat. And let me know. In the meantime, definitely want to encourage everyone to check out the next upcoming workshop. So we have there's gonna be more in Fusion Studio. So we're gonna look at Fusion Studio specifically, and those are all available in our partner iMac. So the full studio version of the software we can work on there. But it's really simple to use this within Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve. So that's the nice thing about it, to be able to do it that way. So Yeah, that's fantastic. So again, you can email me, tom@tvmcs.ca, if you have any questions. And be happy to answer them, go over it. If you worked on some animations and you want to render them out and show me, what you've done, that's fantastic. And for rendering, I should show that actually as well too. So let's look at that quickly too. In terms of the actual render window, we would just then go to deliver, and then you can just choose, what you want, how you want it. So there's some presets. So, we can just say like a Vimeo preset or H.264 preset, let's say. And then we can just go animation, demo, and you choose where you want it. So in this case, I'll put it in this hard drive that we're using under the cuts here. Say, okay, save, video, audio. Let's see what our video, perfect, okay. And then you just add to render queue, render all, and it will show you as it goes, as how it renders, right? And then from there, then go right here, masterclass, cuts, and then we have this final QuickTime. And then that's something you can share and post. Right, so you can share that, post it, and it can play back. So that's really how fast you can make things work in terms of getting it all done and then rendering it out and making that all happen. So yeah, so thanks again for joining us. Want to thank all our partners in the project, Canada Council for the Arts, our library partners. Please check out the iMac computers that are coming there. Blue Mountains Public Library already has them. Wasaga Beach has one, and all of them will have two in the coming weeks total. So you can work on this. Again, these things get a little bit more processor heavy, hard drive heavy and stuff, but you can see eventually the real time's there, so you can quickly get an idea of what it is, and then eventually the real time rendering comes into play, and then you get that idea. The other thing too is you can always do that whole delivery output, do an output, and I do that sometimes just to render it, see it play back, because even when it's playing in the actual software, sometimes it's a little bit stuttery when there's there's a little bit of lag as it's going, and it might start and stop. But render it out, then you can see how it plays back in its as a natural, as a QuickTime file. So that's what I always recommend doing. So yeah, thanks again for joining us. Real pleasure. And like I said, coming up, we have a Fusion Studio workshop. We have more animation workshops coming up too. So please sign up for them, and I hope to see you there. So yeah, thanks again. Have a great rest of the day, and thanks for joining us. Take care.